everybody. Welcome to Coffee with Kate on Halloween. I even got my bat ears or bat wings or whatever you want to call them, thanks to my friend Karen Jones in Arizona. And I am so excited to have you all here today. We're going to be talking about how writing your book doesn't have to be spooky with my special friend and guest, Paula Diaco. Hey, Paula.
Hello.
Cheers. Here's to us having our little conversation. So what do you have in your little cup today, your little pumpkin cup or shot?
Yeah, glass? This is a shot glass of spirits.
Ooh, a shot glass of spirits. Well, I have water in my water with Kate mug, coffee with Kate mug.
It's truth be told, it is water, but I wanted to get spirits into the Halloween theme.
Yes. So happy Halloween, everybody. We're going to be covering some really interesting stuff today. So if you have been a person that has maybe even written a book and you're thinking about writing another book, or you are dying to write a book and you can't wait and you're not sure where to start, or if you're terrified of writing a book. So Paula, let's start with this. One of the things we said in our promotion for this show today is that writing your book doesn't have to be scary, right? Or spooky. And part of why I wanted to have you on today was to sort of take that fear away from the people who may be watching. So let's start there.
Yeah, so it is scary. It's scary for a lot of us, including me. I'm not exempt. And it's scary for a lot of reasons. We're vulnerable. We are, putting ourselves on display. I work primarily with entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and creative people who want a book to build their business. And they are writing about their business expertise, their business experience, and that's all part of their life and who they are as they came to those experiences. So we are volunteering to be very vulnerable during the writing process, and then forevermore when the book is out in print or in audiobook form.
Right.
So who wouldn't be afraid of that?
Right? I know it is. It's scary. Even when I've done 2 like anthology books in the last year where I've been a co-author, and even just writing a chapter, it's been I don't want to say it's been hard. It's just another mindset. It's another way of doing things. And I was writing about something really personal. So there's that whole fine line of like, how much do I say? And do I be vulnerable? So why don't we talk a little bit about the types of books so you are a book and writing coach.
I am.
And you have been a book and writing coach for 10 years?
Well, technically since 2016, but my entire career as an adult working in a variety of publishing industries led me to this place. So I've kind of been doing it a lot, but in different ways. But then I put all my expertise together and decided to call myself a book coach.
Yeah, good. So when you work with clients, you are primarily helping people with what we call a nonfiction book. Yes.
Yes.
So why don't you just sort of break that down for people? I mean, I'm sure people know what nonfiction and fiction is, but break down sort of what a nonfiction book is and isn't.
Sure. So a nonfiction book is a book that contains the truth. It's not a novel, which is a story that you make up. Memoir, which is about your life, is actually nonfiction because you're telling stories of your life. But it's written very much like a novel. So that's sort of an interesting subgenre, if you will, the memoir. But I primarily work with my clients on what are grouped as prescriptive nonfiction. And that is books that tell you how to do something. So literally a how-to, or it could be a self-help, personal development, inspirational books. And it is you examining, again, your life, your experience, your expertise, and drafting it into a form where other people can take it and they can literally do some steps in a how-to book, or have guidance through a process where they can accomplish something they might not do if they didn't have your book.
Okay.
At least that's the goal.
Okay. So what's your favorite? I mean, I'm sure you love all of them, but do you have a favorite when you work with a client? Or does it depend on the client?
It depends on the client. It really does. I mean, a straight how-to is actually a very interesting book, but I tend to lean towards the inspirational or the self-help or personal development because I read a lot of them.
Right.
Straight memoir is a fun read as well, but I like to work with clients who have a memoir hybrid. So they can take more stories than they might otherwise and combine them with the inspirational, the self-help, whatnot. So embedded in their story are exercises or little how-to segments at the ends of chapters that people can then draw on the chapter and again accomplish something they might not do otherwise.
So I'm not following the hybrid part. You might have
Well,
explained it, but I'm a little.
it's just combining a memoir, which is storytelling of the author's life experience with an inspirational
I see.
format or a self-help format.
Okay. Okay. Got it. So when people are wanting to write a book, I think,
Mhm.
and correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, I talk to a lot of people anecdotally that say, well, I want to have a book because it's not necessarily that I'm trying to make sales and make
Mhm.
money on the book. I'm really kind of using it as another sort of like a calling card, if you will, like
Yeah,
another,
sure.
way of putting something out there. Or if people
Mhm.
speak from stage, they offer their book, afterwards for sale
Yeah,
or not.
absolutely.
Um,
Mhm.
and so, when people are thinking about writing their book, what should their sort of, end goal be? Like, let's start with the end in mind and work backwards.
Yeah.
When you're working with them as a coach, what are you sort of teasing out of them to decide what their book's purpose is?
Yeah, yeah, and that comes right at the beginning. So it's good that you bring that up. We talk about the why of their book and the why they're writing it, and what that book's going to do, and what is the book's purpose ultimately. And sure, you can sell the books. You obviously want to sell the books,
Right.
but are those books going to open doors for you that might not be opened because you don't have your name on a book cover? It could be bigger collaborations. It could be stages where you're paid really well. It could be any myriad of opportunities that book is going to provide for you. So we outline that and we include that as a goal for them with regard to the contents of the book.
Okay. That's so interesting to me.
Mhm,
So, when you get a client and they come to you saying, I want to get this book that's in my head onto paper.
mhm.
What are the first steps that you do with that client, even if it's just on a discovery call? Like, what are the first things you do? Because, it's just like when people come to me, like, I want to really develop my personal brand and I really want to be more prominent on the LinkedIn platform. And I'm like, well, before I can answer that question, I have to go back and go, well, what are your goals for yourself, putting yourself out there for your personal brand?
Mhm.
What are you trying to get out of it? Like why? So I imagine you
Yeah.
must do something similar.
Yeah, I do, and they very often will come to me with a really grand topic. So if they're a leadership coach and they're wanting to share their procedure around leadership and the things a leader should do to be their best selves,
Mhm.
we narrow it down even more. Like, who is the audience? And exactly what is this topic about? And we take it from a grand topic to a really cogent idea.
Mhm.
And we niche it down, we fine tune it, we draft almost like a log line for what it is and it's going to be. Because even though people come with very often a book title, and the book title says a lot, can often
Mhm.
say a lot, but it's still most often very broad.
Mhm.
And if they wanted to write that book, it would be way bigger than it needs to be. So we have to winnow it down so that it's something that can be done in 40 to 65,000 words
Right.
and say what it needs to and help people get done what it is the book is supposed to do for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, it's sort of similar when I work with my PR clients. Like
Mhm.
they
Yeah.
were like, I want to be on a really great podcast or I want to be on TV. And
Yep.
I'm like, okay, well, let's figure
Mhm.
out what your hook is. And sometimes they'll be like,
Yes.
my hook. Like, well, I do this and I know this, and isn't that enough? And it's like, no, your expertise matters, but we need to find a topic that is going to be on point, on trend, whatever it is about, and we need to create a compelling hook. Is that something you kind of have to do with a book too?
Totally do that. That's part of the process. And it needs to be unique enough, because you're not wanting to write a book that's already been written. You want to write a book that, if you were to look, let's say on Amazon under and do a search for books on your general topic, what hasn't been written about already that you are the expert on? It often can show you that your book's already been written, or that there is a window of opportunity for you to fill in a space. So while you may be writing about conscious leadership, let's say, which is a branch of leadership, what about conscious leadership hasn't been written? And so you're going to want to be looking at that. Is that really my expertise? And are those the people I most want to talk to? Because in addition to your topic and your hook, it needs to match a specific audience as well. And is that your audience? So yes, go ahead.
Does that question surprise people about who my audience is? Because it's almost like when you start out as an entrepreneur and people are like, who's your ideal client? Well, anybody who will pay me, you know, and it's like, well, that's not going to get you anywhere. So does that question surprise people?
Yeah, it does surprise people. And it surprises me that they're surprised, because they are not generally new entrepreneurs. They are working with people. So then I ask them, well, who do you work with right now? And they'll tell me, and it might be a smattering of different types of people. And I say, who do you like to work with the most? What are the attributes of people that you would just, if all you had were those kinds of clients, you'd be the happiest person in the world. And then they can get very specific with those attributes. And again, we look at those attributes and what it is she or he, the author, is going to talk to them about. So we go back and forth between topic and audience constantly. And I will start with the topic, but sometimes we need to start with the audience, and we go back and forth quite a bit.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So for those of you listening and listening on the replay, welcome. Welcome to my Coffee with Kate with my guest, Paula Diaco, who is a book and writing coach. And we're talking about how your book doesn't have to be spooky. And also Paula and I in real life and outside life are actually very good, dear friends. And we've collaborated on projects in the past together. And even though I'm in personal branding and PR and she's helping people write books, there's a lot of sort of overlap or alignment. When we work with our clients, because we're helping them get their message out. I'm doing it through a different medium than a book. And one of the conversations that you and I have had on our own, which I think would be helpful for people here, is when we talk about why you want to develop and understand your personal brand so that you can position yourself online. In the book world, it's called an author's platform, correct? Something similar.
Technically, an author's platform is their audience.
As their audience, okay.
Is their audience, but yes, they are. But you do position yourself as an author, and and in that not discovery calls, but in the intensives I do with my clients, we are positioning them. We absolutely are, and I'm asking them to look beyond the book to, again, not only what the book will do, but where do they see themselves in 3 to 5 years? How is this book going to position themselves for some bigger and better station in life, if you will?
Right.
Yeah.
You bring up an interesting point, because you and I have also talked about this over the years, because we've known each other for a long time.
Very long.
I've often thought about doing a book, and back, I'm in my 11th year of standing out online. And I mean, back about 7-8 years ago, I was thinking, should I write a book about something having to do with LinkedIn or leveraging LinkedIn? And there's a lot of LinkedIn experts out there who have all written really great books about LinkedIn. But one of the things I always found that was, if anybody was a Instagram expert or a LinkedIn expert or whatever, and write the book, by the time the book is published, the user interface has changed, or the algorithms have changed for the things that we do know about algorithms, which we don't always know. And so that's always been a roadblock for me. And so I'm just curious, when you work with people who come to you with something like that, what is your, I don't want to say a workaround, but what is it that you sort of maybe help them refine so that they can put out something about something that's an expertise they have, that is something that's always changing?
Yeah, yes, and we do look for an evergreen type of situation.
Right.
Visually in my head, I see topics at different levels, from a 30,000-foot point view up here down to a highly niched level down here, and you can go up and down that ladder or scale or whatever you want to call it in terms of the topic. So we will look up or down to see, all right, how can we get out of this potential issue with the material being not evergreen? And it, generally speaking, you go up because you bring a little bit broader view that's still not like encyclopedic. We want to avoid the encyclopedia potential here, because you're
Right.
not writing an encyclopedia. It still has to address a specific audience, and so that's what we do. We look at, does it need to be niched more or less, a little bit
Okay.
less.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You just brought up something funny when you're talking about the encyclopedias. I just remember back in the days of whether it was elementary school, junior high, because we didn't call it middle school back then,
Yeah.
or high school, and we had to write book reports and all the things. I was so fortunate because my mother was a bibliophile, loved books.
Yes.
We
Yes.
always had the World Book Encyclopedia in our house, and a
Yes,
lot of
we
people
did
didn't
too.
have it in their house. It was
Nope.
only in the library. So I always felt like I was sort of privileged, and I don't mean that in a snooty way, that
Yeah.
I could do a book report from home at
Yes.
night, and I'd go down to my dad's insurance agency office and Xerox it,
Yes.
the little photo in the book report, that for extra credit, right, to look like an overachiever.
Yes.
And but I just remember, like, that was our source of information
I
for
know.
so many things, and I just wanted to kind of mention that. Like, what was the
Yeah.
encyclopedia like for you in your life?
Yeah, we had the World Book Encyclopedia with the annual updates.
Yes, you'd get the annual edition for the yearbook for the year.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was like almost more exciting than getting the Sears Christmas
Roebuck
catalog.
Totally.
Oh my God, we're really
Yeah,
dating
I could
ourselves.
sit and read I could sit and read the encyclopedia like a novel.
You know
No
what one of my
problem.
favorite ones was the was H for the human anatomy, because it had those glossy pages where you could overlay them. So like
Yes.
when I was in health class
Yes.
and we were doing
Right.
digestion,
Muscles,
I could, like, you could lay them
bones,
over. I mean, that was so high tech back then.
skin.
Yeah, it was so cool.
I know.
Yeah,
We're a
kids
couple
today
of
have no
dorks.
idea. You're like,
We're
now all you have to do is just pick this up and Google it and, "Hey Siri," and whatever.
right.
And now my phone's probably gonna go, "What? I'm
Not
talking
nearly
to
as
Paula
fun.
Diaco. What should I ask her?" So, anyway, a little digression there, but if anybody is watching right now and you have any questions or comments or you wanna share, feel free to, post a comment. You're either watching me on my Facebook, my LinkedIn, or YouTube, and thank you for being here, and I'm excited that you're all in the replay. And if you are watching the replay, you can still ask questions. Just put it in the comments and tag me and Paula, and we can answer questions, or direct them at Paula too. So you can still ask questions even if it's on the replay. So Paula, talk to me about the types of people you work with and some of the, you don't have to name names, but some of the projects that you've worked on, because I also know that you are also a ghostwriter.
Yes, indeed, I am. So I am industry agnostic. And what that means is I don't focus on the medical industry or the business leadership industry, although I've done a couple of business leadership projects with clients. So the industry doesn't matter. And I've worked with fintech, attorney, like I said, leadership coaches. So that's not I don't focus. I don't niche down into a specific industry. And I work primarily with women, but I do work with men as well. And so I'm not just a coach for women or for men. And I don't just work on a specific genre, subgenre, like inspirational or like how to. I work with all of the prescriptive genres. So like, what is the through line, if you will, of the people I work with? And they are people who are absolutely positively certain that they have something to say that is important to their clientele.
Right.
And one of the first books I did was actually a manifesto on money.
Really?
With fintech, yes, with a fintech expert, fintech being financial technology expert, who is big in the alternative money and funding of startups world. And it was a manifesto why the current funding structure doesn't work for anyone except I'm going to maybe make some people angry, for primarily white men. And this has been documented. I'm not making this up. This has been documented widely. And the author happens to be a woman. So so that was interesting. I learned so much. I've worked with an attorney on a divorce book. Interesting as well.
Yes.
I love people who have an alternative view within their industry. I love the rebels. I love the ones who are like, excuse me, but there's a new way, a different way, a better way of thinking about this.
Yep. I'm the same way with the people I work with. I mean,
love them.
I want to work with the people who are the differentiators, you know,
Yes,
who have a mission, who have a purpose, who want to make an impact, but in a way that's just a little different and fresh.
Yes.
And it's so fun to be a part of that. So we have a question here from Christy Lee. Thank you, Christy. Hi. Paula, what is the best way for an aspiring author to get out of writer's block? That's a great question.
Writer's block is the bane of our existence, procrastination, writer's block, which I have had, and I had for years at one point in my life. So I know it very well. There is no one best way, Christy, because everybody's a little bit different. But, and aside from the obvious, which is to work with a coach. Hi, I'm Paula. It is one way that I think is really, really a lovely way is to find other people who write and decide to share pages with each other, and using a method called the gateless writing method. I'm going to give a plug to my mentor, Suzanne Kingsbury, for this. There's no criticism is allowed, only encouraging words about your work and concentrating more on the craft and the construction of your writing than about the person writing it.
Right.
And you would be amazed at how that can open up a person, because they are feeling safer. And it really, it's neuroscience. It's the amygdala that's coming to protect us when we are criticized. And I'm saying things, criticism, not nasty criticism, but things as simple as, why did you, end that with that sentence with a preposition? And all of a sudden, all of our high school teachers come into our head.
They're all sitting on our shoulders.
And we see the red marks all over our high school papers. We don't even get into that.
And in college.
I took plenty of writing classes despite being a science major.
Yep.
So that will open you up, because you know that you can take risks and not be shamed for them. And that alone can help enormously in getting out of writer's block.
There was something else you've talked to me about, and I don't know if this applies to the writer's block piece, maybe not, but there's something that you call, and correct me if I'm not using the right word, but like an accountability time, like where you sometimes, I think you do salons, or you do these activities with clients where you're both on Zoom and you're not necessarily talking or doing anything, but you're writing, and then there's like an account. So just, I don't know if I'm describing that right. So kind of share with me about what that does, what that is, and what that does for the writer.
Sure. Particularly people who are neurodivergent, ADHD types, again, right here. There's something called body doubling, and it is a situation where you aren't working with the person who's in the same room, even the Zoom room. But you know that there's someone who's also writing alongside you in real time. And just knowing that helps and aids you in getting into your work and writing. It's a very funny thing, but it works. And those of us with ADHD swear by it. You can call that co-writing or co-working. The salon piece that I've done, again, is a gateless tool, which is everyone is given a prompt, then time to write. They come back, they read their work, and we give the positive feedback.
Okay.
And
so they share it in the salon, they share it.
in the salon, they share it. And I've got
Okay.
some funny light on me, so just ignore it.
I know we're both getting dappled with light coming from our blinds. I'm in Colorado. She's in Vermont, and
it's sunny everywhere.
Sunny.
Yeah.
It's our sunny personalities.
Of course. Or a ghost. I don't know. We weren't going to do that whole
spirits in your little shot glass.
Oh yeah, there we go. Of course. Silly me. Yeah, so that works really, really well. And people get a lot of work done. I had a client that I did that with throughout the coaching. I got work done, the client got work done, and the book manuscript got completed in record time, which was super cool.
Yeah, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to us about, so if people are watching this and they're watching this on the replay, and thank you if you are, and they want to just get on a call with you, what does that look like? And give us some of the ways that people can find you so that they could get on a call with you.
Yeah, my website is up on the screen, and there is a contact form that people can use. And this
is also going to a podcast where there's no visual. So just say
okay.
URL
So it's Write, WRITE, storiesnow.com is my website. And there is a contact page. There's a tab right on the home page, and one can contact me that way. My email address is paula@writestoriesnow.com. And people can get on a discovery call with me and just say, look, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm trying to do. How do I get that done? And it could be, I didn't mention the ghostwriting earlier, but not only do I coach people to write their work, but if they're not a writer or they don't want to write, I'm really trying to avoid this light. I can potentially write it for them, working with them closely, but for them. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's actually a good segue. Let's just touch on the ghostwriting thing before we wrap up. So if somebody wants to, if somebody's like, oh, I've heard of ghostwriters, but I didn't know you do it, Paula.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that process. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that's more of an investment for sure.
Yeah, it is a greater investment. It's a huge done for you in the coaching industry. There's DIY and done for you. This is done for you, since I would be writing it. But basically, I would interview the author, and they are the author because it's their thoughts, it's their material. I'm the writer for it. So I'm one of the tools that provides them, the manuscript. And we do a lot of the same things that I do with my coaching clients. Again, figuring out the topic, figuring out the audience, coming up with a table of contents, coming up with chapter synopses, and then getting it done with the material that the interviews provide me.
Okay.
So it's a big process. It takes a great deal of time, hence the larger investment. But there are people who literally do not have the time to do it, nor the interest.
Right. So how does that work? So you get hired as the ghostwriter, you're familiar with the topic, and you obviously you start to write. And obviously you figured out your chapters and your topics and the highlights with the client because it's their expertise. So what's that process look like in a nutshell? So as you're writing, do you write certain chapters and then you go back to the client and say, this is how far I've gotten? Am I on the right track? Is this the right vibe?
Yes.
Or do you write the whole thing and then go back to them?
No, it's a chapter by chapter or a couple chapters at a time. We want to set the tone. I want to make sure I match their voice. I also want them to check the accuracy. Or, say, we should add something else in here. And, they can put in the comments in Google Docs, whatever additional material they feel is missing. So it really is very collaborative with them.
Okay. So if you ghostwrite, do you also edit the book, or do you send that off to an editor?
No, it has to be edited by someone else because I have been so
immersed.
So immersed that I don't see an error for my life.
Okay. So if you don't ghostwrite a book, you do also edit, right?
So I developmentally edit books, which is not copy editing, which is correcting grammar and typos. and it's not line editing, which is making paragraphs and sentences read better. Developmental editing is, does this book hold together as a book? Like, and do the chapter headings, does the content of the chapter match the chapter headings? And does the book make sense? Like, what is, can I tell by reading the title? And then that promise of the title, is it showing up in the book? So it's a very structural editing that I do.
Thank you for breaking that down, because I've really kind of wondered.
Yeah.
So I would love it if any of you you can also connect with Paula on LinkedIn, right? Yes. So I think we have that link. There it is. Magic. It's magic. Thank you, Jim. My friend Jim Fuse is in the background doing all of this for me, and he's on my team, and I'm so grateful. And this is the first time in all my Coffee with Kates that I've had somebody doing all this stuff in the back end, and it helps me be an even better listener for my guests.
Very cool. I love it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So so I had one other follow-up question, and just like everything else in life, poof, it's gone.
I know.
Is there anything, what is one like golden nugget, like a tip to help somebody think about getting their book done? Like, what is something that you would suggest they try to do that is simple and doable to help them kind of discern what they should do in this process?
Yeah, so they can go to Amazon and do a search. Why don't they do that ahead of time? And I often will ask them to do that. Search on some keywords in the search function on Amazon for books on the general topic that they want. Almost 100% of the time, people already know the big sellers within their industry, like what to expect when you're expecting, if you're work with moms to be, right? They already know those standard ones, but what to expect when you're expecting is an older book. What has been written since then? And
it's been updated, right?
It's been updated. It's going to be in print probably forever. So it's one of the best, most successful nonfiction books ever, actually.
I read it when it first came out.
Yeah, because it's
2 sons later, I made it.
There you go. So just look to see, what are other people saying? Again, very often they know the other players, their colleagues or competition, depending upon how they view them. But there could be some people, there could be brand new books that were unexpected. And it's really good to know the lay of the land when it comes to your topic and the people who are speaking on it. And just be like, I had a, for instance, where a young woman came to me very excited. She wanted to write a book about her experience as a nanny. You know where I'm going with this, right? Yeah. And I said, really, what about being a nanny was so unique? Well, you would not believe the people that I met with. She goes, I will change all their names. I said, so you talked a lot about the behind the scenes with the parents and negotiating the children with the parents. Oh, all of that. She said, yeah, that book was done. That book was done quite a few years ago. And in fact, there was a movie that won awards for it, The Nanny Diaries. Okay. She literally went, I'm not making fun of her so much as, had she looked, she could see that book's already been done. And I even recommended she go and look under like books about nannies and that industry to see if there was something else she wanted to do, because she really did have industry knowledge and practical experience in it. Right. But she really wanted to do that book because it was so rich with stories, which is why it was done already.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. That's so interesting.
I know.
Do you ever help people who might do you ever have people that be like, you know what, I want to write a book and my plan is to do it in 2 or 3 years. But right now I want to write, I want to start a blog, or I want to do a white paper or something like that. Yeah. Do you help people with that too? If that's that like me might be an entree into the future book.
Yeah, blog posts, having a Substack, having being on medium.com and publishing, or long form articles on LinkedIn are all great places to start building audience, which is platform.
Yes.
And as well as testing out their topic material. How are people engaging with it? Are they getting clients from it? Are they getting comments? And is their work being shared? I think is a really good start for somebody who's thinking about writing a book, but isn't quite ready yet.
Great. Paula, I think you have definitely taken the fear out of writing your books, and how apropos to be on Halloween. So I want to thank you so much for being with us today. Is there anything else you'd like to leave with our listeners today, and those who are also listening on the replay?
Yeah. So if you want to reach out to me, I gave you the writestoriesnow.com contact page, email paula@writestoriesnow.com, go on LinkedIn and let's connect. I would love that. If they have questions, I have free discovery calls where we talk about what your dreams and goals and desires are. And there are I have great intensives for entering into the book writing process that are both affordable and will get the basic elements of your book together, so that you can either do DIY it, or if you need coaching, we can discuss that as well.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Paula. Please stay on after we stop the broadcast, just so we can do some follow-up. But I'm so grateful to have you here. And thank you to all my listeners who have joined in, whether you were live or you were watching the replay. And don't forget, you can still ask questions on the replay in the chat. Just tag @Paula Diaco, whether you're on LinkedIn or Facebook, and then she'll get notified and she can answer your question. So thank you all for being here. And we look forward to our next Coffee with Kate. My next guest is going to be Betsy Clark, who is a transformation coach. And we're going to be talking about positive intelligence. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for being here.